This game is called Escape from Lavender Island. It's a third-person open-world game. I'd never made a game like this before, but I always played games that were these open-world games and just wanted to try it out on a much smaller scale. Usually these are games made by like huge teams of people, and I was interested to see if I could figure out a kind of like dialed-down way to make one on my own. You are this character named Z-Axis, and Z just means Z, like in how they say Canada or the UK, and then axis, the axis point, right? So like in a 3D program, you have an X, Y, and Z, and he's the third axis, just because I'm using 3D software. Anyway, so he wakes up in this like prison cell, but it's not really clear if it's a prison cell or a college dormitory, or he's in like a psych ward, or like where the hell he is. And he discovers that his cell door is just open and he can leave, and he goes out and meets the warden, who's kind of like the bad guy of the game. And he kind of slowly figures out, once he gets outside the building, that he's kind of in the city that he had just dreamt about in his cell. And so he's just kind of exploring that environment and meeting people along the way and learning more about the space. You kind of discover that the whole thing is just in a bottle, and then you go back into the bottle, deeper into your mind, I guess, so you can't really escape it. There's 5 different neighborhoods that you explore. Each neighborhood just kind of has like a different feeling to it. You start off in the corporate university prison town. That's where you were living, I guess, and then you go into some slums. You go into an environment that's being built, and there's like little robots walking around. And they're wearing that depression sweater. The 4th level is the Lavender corporate headquarters. That's kind of modeled off of like a financial district in a city. This soulless place with a bunch of advertisements, very slick. The 5th world is this alien colony, and it kind of becomes clear that this corporation is working with like alien colonists to, I guess, take over the world. With this one, I'd been doing games for a while, so like I knew the process a little more, what to expect. And also with this one, I was going for like a more unique look. These game engines, they give you a very specific look right out of the can. And I was trying to fight that a little bit to get a more like retro kind of look that was a little more reminiscent of older games, but only reminiscent. I mean, like an older game could not handle the amount of stuff I packed in here. And I was just trying to develop like a unique look. A lot of that had to do with everything being not high polygon counts to make it more efficient, so that I could just cram like as much stuff in there as possible. We kind of wanted to like make the space 2 separate things to some extent. There's like the gamer space that's more isolating, I guess. Sometimes the act of playing a game alone at home is pretty lonely. And so I wanted to like capture that to some extent. So that's why I put that one off to the side. And then this space is a little larger, and there's like a public bench. It's like a park. So it has a different feel to it. And that one, we left the drywall exposed. There's the studs are exposed. So it's a little bit like sitting in like an unfinished basement. So I like taking these elements out of the game and just making them real, so that we see that digital stuff has real repercussions, I guess, or real, like takes up real space in the real world. I'm super lucky to collaborate with Chris Perello, who's a really fabulous musician and composer. This is our 2nd project we finished together. Before this, we did Fuzz Dungeon. This is our 2nd one, and now we're also working on a 3rd one. He's really great to work with because he's very meticulous and very detail-oriented, and I'm very much not. So a lot of times he'll take longer to do the soundtrack than I take to do the game. So if you even look on the Steam page, the soundtrack came out like a month or so later. But I think music for video, for any moving image stuff, music is sort of like, I think of it as like a key to helping the audience know how you want them to feel about what's going on. And so Chris is really good at capturing that and juxtaposing really fancy, nice composed piano music with like a goofy scenario. And I love that juxtaposition because, again, it's like surprising and weird. But it also helps people take it a little more seriously, I guess. Because when you see like a lo-fi looking kind of video game, but then you hear really nicely composed piano music, you want to figure out more what's going on, I guess. And it kind of sets a feeling of like this is a very considered space, right, that somebody took seriously. At the end of the day, I'm like just some weirdo, and I'm not like an expert in politics or economics or anything like that. And it's more just like about my feelings living in this stuff, and I just don't feel good about it, I guess. And we all feel very like alienated from our labor. Somewhat it's just that, it's like me dealing with living in the world, and then I hope other people can relate to it. But sure, there's like a lot of critique and a lot of ways I'm talking about that. I like this expression. There's this video game group from last decade called Arcane Kids, and they wrote like a manifesto on game design. And one of their points in the manifesto is the quickest way to the truth is through a joke, right? So I don't want to be like really heavy-handed about this or really didactic. I'd rather just make it into kind of like jokes almost, very serious things and very annoying things. And just kind of talk about how absurd they are in a vein of comedy, I guess, more than anything.